man himself, man. This is the man who is behind so many careers of comedians, and it doesn't go recognized the way it should, but we're gonna shine some more light as it should be. This is the man with the plan. Mr. Bob Sumner. What's up, sir?
What's going on, man? It's great seeing you, bro.
Always a pleasure, my
Yeah,
brother.
man.
Always a pleasure. So, Bob, we gotta start off by just talking about tonight. You had two special events tonight. You had one early tonight where you had the who's in the building to come recognize you, brother. And then tonight you had a surprise. Tell us about tonight, man. What was tonight like for you?
Tonight was an incredible night. It was special because I saw so many different chapters of my life. I'm talking about from 3 years old to now celebrating 65. And I want to give a big shout out to John Blassingame. My man, John Blassingame, one of my mentors coming up. He made sure that Atlanta was represented down here, like the people that he deal with, as well as it was so many people from up north. You know, it was a special night. And Rodney Hardiman, who I'm gonna be doing some business with in this new year, you know, this was a great setup to things that we have going on. And then, you know, running into you, bruh, you always been a go-to for me. And it's crazy because what's getting ready to happen with, you know, this journey that I'm still on. I can't create a situation and watch everybody else eat. You know, when I have the formula, and when people say I don't get enough credit, this, that, and the other, God has given me, has blessed me. You know what I mean? I'm happy to be here. But when I've been able to, and it's funny that this taping is happening in the ATL, because people don't really know that the Birth of Death Comedy Jam started in Atlanta. It didn't start anywhere more than Atlanta, because that's when it was official. We didn't even know what the name of the show was going to be. Now you see everything's called Comedy Jam. We didn't even know what the show was going to be.
Wow.
But that night when I went to the Comedy Act Theater, it on Peachtree, I was down here for Jack the Rapper.
Wow.
But I was getting ready to work on this new TV show with Russell Simmons and Stan Lathan. Didn't know what any of it was going to be. But up in Jersey, I had some comedy rooms that I was doing some underground stuff. I'm DJing up there, like with Kid Capri. That whole concept came from what I was doing, you know. And there were some comedians that was doing the underground thing. And a young lady by the name of Adele Givens had called me because Arsenal and Mitchell, these young dudes, had told her about me. And she came up to New York and she rocked my rooms. And I knew that I was getting ready to come down to Atlanta for Jack the Rapper. And when I was gonna be done with that, I was gonna travel around the country and see if I could find some comedians for this new show that we were gonna work on through what we already had going on at Def Jam Records. I was doing this underground thing. So I knew that there were certain cities I needed to go. I needed to go to DC, you know. I needed to come down to Atlanta. I needed to go to Chicago. You know, there were certain hotbeds that you, and then of course LA, and I was already up in New Jersey, New York. I knew what that was all about. So when Adele came to New York, I said, I'm gonna call Adele and see if she had any people in Chicago that I need to deal with that could put some other comedians up for me to see. And she said she had a friend named Bernie. She had a friend named Bernie, and to give him a call. She gave me the number, so I called him, and he was expecting my call. Adele told him that, you know, this guy was going to be calling and he's working on a project and he wanted to come to Chicago. So when I called him, he told me that he was going to be able to help me out, but he was going to Atlanta first. And I was like, Atlanta? I'm getting ready to go to Atlanta. Wow. Never forget the date, August the 5th, 19. To work for Def Jam Records. I'm gonna go see Bernie because he's performing at a place called the Comedy Act Theater. Now I'm thinking the only Comedy Act Theater was in Los Angeles, right. But there was actually one that Mike and Gary Williams was doing as a satellite over here. So I went down to see Bernie, and I never forget because we didn't have cell phones back then. So I had to go back to the Marriott over here downtown and get on one of them expensive stuff. I had to call Bill Bellamy. I had to call Bill. Bill was hosting my shows at the Peppermint. And I called Bill. I said, Bill, I just saw the funniest motherfucker I ever seen in my life. Wow. His name is Bernie Mac. Wow. And that's where the beginning of Def Comedy Jam happened. Because I then went to Chicago. Bernie set up a showcase for me there. And on this particular night, Bernie sat me in a booth, right, to look at these comedians. And he asked me if this young lady could sit in the booth with me. And I looked, she said, Bob. I said, Phyllis. It was Phyllis Hyman. Wow. This was the beginning, man. This was the beginning of the whole thing. And we just wrote it out from there. You know, at that time, Bernie was working for Wonder Bread. How about that? Yeah. How about that? Yeah, I got stories for days.
Hey, I don't know if y'all getting this, man. Y'all don't understand. I'm sitting here. See, now, Angelo's been in the comedy world. Mm-hmm. I've been in it, but, sitting out here. Right. So listening to you, give these stories, man, this is real.
Right. These were the days when Ryan Cameron was doing comedy.
What's the day's date? This is the last day of Black History Month, right?
Day.
And here we getting it.
It's a Black History Month.
We are getting it right now.
Come on, man. You know how many receipts I have? You know how many stories I hear about? Come on.
So they had a birthday celebration for They got you. We saw your face.
That was crazy. That was crazy, man.
You said something out there, about the band and everything and growing up in that. You said it was like a live band in your living room almost.
Yes, it was.
It was. Go into that a little bit. Explain that a little bit.
Well, I was raised in a community where there used to be a lot of live entertainment. And a lot of live entertainment used to happen right at my crib. Because when I was a kid, my parents would always go to the world famous Apollo Theater, where I'm curator of comedy now, over there. But they got the bug to go over there because my uncle used to always perform there because he's in the movie in my uncle's group. And right. she married wow. Frankie Lyman. So like this was my records where she did royalties for Sam Cooke, Elvis, all of them. And my dad was a manager of bands and stuff coming up, right? So while all this was going on, one of my brothers started playing the guitar when he was 9 years old, and he was really, really good. And I had another brother that sang. So they actually formed a singing group that actually used to record down at Sigma Sounds with MFSB and all this. And I'm a little kid watching all this, but one of my brothers was in the singing group and the other one was in the band. So while my brother would be at his house with his singing group working on the songs, my other brother would have a live band in my living room working on the music. And then they would all come together to work on their stage show that they was getting ready to go take out on the weekend. So I used to sit up on the steps and watch them. And then my brother that played guitar, he used to always have me. I was like the official needle picker-upper, you know? So, because he was trying to get the parts. So when I'm watching this band tonight, all I'm thinking is, damn, they're celebrating my birthday. They got DJ Ant Love, who rocked with me after Kid Capri had, you know, started doing all of the P. Diddy tours and all that. So I'm watching all of this come together. Then there's a live band, you know, just like what used to literally be in my living room, you know?
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So you really were born into it.
And then with the Apollo, I would always go to the Apollo on Wednesdays, and we would go on Sundays because my family lived up in Harlem in Esplanade Gardens, and we would go over there like it was soul food on Sundays, and then we would hit the Apollo, or we would go on Wednesdays for the amateur shows. So one day I was doing, during the pandemic, I did something for LeBron James Company. And when they were interviewing me, I just casually mentioned that I saw Moms Mabley 20 times. And I did. You know, when I was a kid, I would see Moms Mabley all the time, Slappy White, Godfrey Cambridge, Nipsey Russell, George Kirby. I saw all of them, but I would also see the Motown Review with Junior Walker and the All-Stars, the Marvelettes, Little Stevie. I saw them. I saw the James Brown Review. Like I was taking all this in as a young kid, but it was the comedy mix that went along with the live music that I just, while I was loving sports too. You know, it was something that I was gonna do related to any of that. And then I started going around the country like a basketball scout, but it was comedians. Imagine that. And it became Def Comedy Jam, which can't be duplicated because I have the formula. It's a formula that I use. This ain't just about seeing comedians that's funny. You have to know how it's about placement and everything. You don't want anybody who's the same. Right. That's what used to trip me out when I used to watch Comic View sometime, and they would do a whole show on the same premise. You know what I mean? Or they would do a show with crickets. Right. That's not stand-up comedy. Right. You know what I mean? Right. You want versatility, and you want comedians that's representing the entire country. You know, that was the thing when you would hear Martin say, coming from this place, coming from that place, you know what I mean?
I mean, how did the name come about?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. Because it's, I mean, it is what it is. All right, we are in our conference room at Def Jam Records, and we're having these meetings in reference to what is this thing going to be, what is it going to look at, and everything was really falling on me for the most part because I'm holding the talent basket. Now the artistry, the brilliance of Stan Lathan, he already knows what he's gonna do. That's why you see him and Chappelle. But in terms of what Def Comedy Jam, what was gonna be in terms of a title, even a host, you know, the whole DJ concept, all that, we didn't know what any of it was. But the title was really a trip because we're in the room, no different than there was an episode of the Chappelle Show when they be sitting around the table and the word N-word going in there, right? It was the same thing that happened with us with Def Comedy Jam. We're trying to figure out what are we gonna call this show, right? We know what it was representing, but are we gonna call it? So as we're doing that, in our conference room, we have platinum plaques. Public Enemy, LL, Slick Rick, all these plaques going around. So Russell leans back on his chair, right? And when he hits the wall, the plaque falls down on the floor.
Oh, wow.
Right? He picks up the plaque and he looks at it and he goes, you know, we have Def Jam recordings, that's the thing. He goes, Def Comedy Jam. And just like the N-word thing, everybody goes, Def Comedy Jam, Def Comedy Jam. That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
That's it.
I'm
Wow.
leaning back in the chair.
Wow.
And the
Doing that.
and the thing, and pick it up, and he looks, and it's just like an episode of Bewitched.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day when they
Yeah.
used to come up with the slogans and stuff? It was like that, man. But that's
wow.
really how it happened. And now when you watch, even with Shaq's All-Star Comedy Jam, and you know everything became Comedy Jam, and I'm saying I should have pulled a Pat Riley and got the 3P. You did? Patting that joint, right? Isn't that something? But that's a true story.
Wow.
Just like I said, Def Comedy Jam was actually birthed in Atlanta.
Wow.
You know, when you want to get down, you know, I had what was going on at Club 88 before the Peppermint. You know, that's where it really, I was molding everything and looking, doing the showcases and stuff. But in terms of when it was solidified that this could happen, I called Bill and I told him, yo, we on our way. Then I went out there, and it was another crazy story about out there. Bernie had a guy who was like his right hand, whatever, picking me up from the airport with him, this, that, and the other. And I had never been to Chicago. And this is when the Bulls were hot and the Bears were hot. So I'm looking, they taking me to my hotel, and it's right down the street from Ebony Jet and stuff, right there on Michigan Ave. You got Lake Michigan and stuff. I'm all excited to go up in my room to look at the lake and stuff. I get up there, open up my window, it's a brick wall. It's a brick wall. I got ran outside, I said, yo man, y'all gotta take me somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, so now the drive and everything, they take me to another hotel, everything was cool. But that same, when I got to the place that night, and when Phyllis Hyman, everything was there, the guy who was driving set up the video camera and everything. He's doing all the video work. I remember the plug came out, and I got kind of like heated because people was like in the way. I'm like, this is serious business, but dude is doing what he's doing, this, that, and the other, right? So now we go into the season. This is in September. We shooting Def Comedy Jam in October, right? So now the season one goes by, this, that, and the other. So now it's time for season 2, and now the show is popping, and I'm doing the showcase. I'm back in Chicago, but now I'm doing the showcase at All Jokes Aside, because they done started this new club, All Jokes Aside, right? And the comedian that's hosting the early part of the thing, right, was the same dude that was taping for Bernie the year before. So I'm bugging because why didn't you do this last season? He says to me, it was all about Bernie. He wanted to make sure Bernie was looking good and that everything. So I always respected this dude for that. You know what I mean? And he remembers all this.
Wow.
George Wilborn.
Stop. Really? Wow.
Hey man, this is crazy.
That's crazy.
I guess you said that you was going around like a ball scout, but you was scouting comedians. Let me tell you something, man. You're a hell of a scout. You're a hell of a scout. The careers that somebody as simple as Big Legs, as simple as her coming up and dancing. She ended up being a big time choreographer just from that.
When I put Craig Robinson on, that was different because they wasn't expecting that.
I'm sure.
They wasn't expecting that, but I was looking for something different. Nothing was gonna be safe. That's why so many people say that, we had a lot of profanity. Not really. We had it, but we had a little bit of this, that, and the other too. You know what I mean? Because I could tell you, when I put Chris Tucker in the mix, Chris Tucker, even though he was at the Bay Area comedy competition, that's where I saw him at. Okay. You know what I mean? But other than that, you know, all that Friday and all that, they even talk about it. They saw him on Def Jam.
Sure.
But all I needed was him to showcase. Just like when I put Damon Wayans Jr. on later on.
Right.
Nobody knew Damon Wayans Jr. was doing comedy.
Right.
His set was off the hook. You know what I'm saying? And that was years later.
Years later.
You know?
So how'd y'all come to the decision on the host? I mean, you know, when you start off, you have Martin Lawrence. I mean, how'd that come?
It was supposed to be Martin, because early in the game, of course, Robin was the toast of the town.
Okay.
Robin Harris was
Sure.
bubbling.
Sure.
Robin, after Baby's Kids, Robin passed. You know, so then they started doing these tributes to Robin, this, that, and the other. And Martin was on the bill on one of the shows with the Living Color guys, because that was a popular show at the time. So Martin was just like the other stand-up guy. But HBO, they were looking to do a project with him. You know, the Fox and HBO, they was all connected. And Martin had already had a half-hour special. See, a couple guys, Mark Carey, a couple guys was getting HBO specials, or they was getting the young comedian special. You know, but there was no direct move to do anything like what we were doing. But Martin fit the bill for what we were doing. You know what I mean? And it also helped them now find that project for them. And then after that, what happened? The Martin show. So we were stuck with him for another season, but you could tell that he was in another world at that time, this, that, and the other. So, you know, but it worked. It worked for him to a point where now he's back out there again.
Seriously,
you know?
for him. Man. Your roster is undefeated. You like the internet.
And the crazy part is, like I said, I'm doing it again. You know, I just went around the country and I just looked at the same concept that I always use, and I feel very, very comfortable with what I did. And I still, like I said, I'm still working on the list with some of them names from Hateville. Yeah. You know what I mean? For real. Yeah. I mean, this is what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's paid off for me for years. And I just feel as though if I've been able to help others, you know, because we came before Comic View.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Everybody that you saw host Comic View, first time on TV was on Def Comedy Jam. All of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but Comic View gave the other comedians opportunities to be seen and stuff. But for me, Def Comedy Jam, I knew that on Monday and Tuesday, all of the casting agents in Hollywood were going to be calling me, because they saw a variety of different people. You know what I mean? And it all panned out. You know,
so when y'all
I'm gonna do it again.
When y'all sit in that boardroom, though, you know, coming up with a name and all that stuff, did y'all in a conversation ever imagine? Did y'all say this is gonna be a cultural phenomenon that's gonna last the times? I mean, did y'all have that conversation? Did y'all foresee that?
No, not to a point of where it came. You know what happened, and I'm gonna tell you something. And this is something that I'm gonna be straight up about, okay? We gave others opportunities to win off of our blood, sweat, and tears, okay? Because I'm gonna tell you straight up, all right? If you want me to say it, I'll say it.
Say it.
The Kings of Comedy was supposed to be a Def Comedy Jam reunion. You know what I mean? Point blank. Wow. Now look at it. Where's the first time you saw any of those comedians? You saw them on Def Comedy Jam. Absolutely. Then they get television shows from Def Comedy Jam. Absolutely. All get television shows, but who? Bernie. He didn't have one, but Bernie was the star of the Def Comedy Jam tour, who the promoters of the Kings of Comedy were also the promoters of the Def Comedy Jam tour. You know what I mean? So that's how people play that game. You know what I mean? That's how they play that game. So when you look at the whole thing, because even at the beginning, Guy Torrey, Chris Thomas, DL wasn't even on the tour. You know what I mean? But then DL got a TV show.
Right.
You know, Bernie didn't have a TV show. Right. But Steve and Sid was on the same show. You got millions of people watching it, and then you got the funniest stand-up with it, you know, and then what happens, Bernie gets a show later. But even before that, we had shot a pilot with Bernie called Pearl's Place to Play. It's a restaurant in Chicago called Pearl's Place. I never realized where that name came from, but I have the VHS in my office, if you don't believe it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. There's so many things that somebody's holding what? Receipts.
Receipts. Respect.
Wow, man, that is
Come on, man.
Man, just again, I'm sitting there as you're talking, and I'm thinking of all the people that was on that show and where they went to, like I said, with the TV shows, hosting these big award shows. I mean, this having their own radio. I mean, these people are radio personalities.
Let me give y'all another. I got gems. I got gems. We can have fun with this. Hey man, this is my dude right here. Right? So we are on tour.
Okay.
We're on tour, but now we have to tape a new season of Def Jam. Right? So we taped the season, and now we're in editing and stuff. We're looking at all of the performances, right? But we're still on tour, but we're doing this. So Monique had taped, and I'm looking at Monique's material that she used. It was cool for tour,
okay.
But with TV, we're trying to go a different way because already we're getting criticized for some of the profanity and this, that, and other. So we decide that we're going to not use Monique's material that she taped, but we're going to keep on the tour.
Okay.
So we're playing the amphitheater in LA, right? So this is when she was married to this other guy. Right, and it was killing me that I knew that we wasn't going to use her material for the new season, but I was going to tape it the next season. So I had a conversation with her husband, but this is right before the show, right? But I'm not thinking that he gonna go back in the dressing room and tell her this. Next thing I know, who comes storming out of the dressing room, running up to me? This is before she get ready to go on stage. Pop, what do you mean you're not gonna do my show, right? And I'm looking, and I look at dude,
right.
And he looking all cool, you know. I'm like, come on, man. But then I'm like, well, this is why he couldn't hold it. But not before the show. Make a long story short, she goes out there and rip. I mean, rip. Okay? This is on a Saturday night. I get a call on Monday in reference to Monique's performance. Is she still in LA? I said, no, she went back to Baltimore, right? I said, what's up? She said, they said it was the producers from Moesha was in the audience, wow. And they're getting ready to do a spinoff with Countess, and they're interested in using her to play Countess's mother. And that's how Nikki Parker got the job. Did you hear what I just said? That's a true story.
Wow.
That changed her life.
Facts.
Man, I'm telling you, bro.
Wow.
This is I mean, her stuff not being used. That's crazy.
Because she took that, whatever that was,
that's some history. So, I know you say you had the formula, right? So without dipping into the formula though, what was the experience like putting together a show? Like, you know, because you going through all these comedians and they have to formulate who you gonna put on the show, how you go about it. Like,
it's a draft board with charts. It's a draft board with charts. I'm dead ass. It's a draft board with charts. It's with cities. You break it down. When I left you, and I went from June 10th with you to May 11th. November 11th. I shut it down at the Comedy Store. I couldn't believe how the percentages of women to men was on even Steven. It's so many funny women out here right now.
Yeah.
It wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
A lot. They're funnier because they got stories to tell. Yeah.
That's right.
That's deep.
It's a draft board with cities. I gotta look at the cities, the regions, just to play it all to see how it all comes together. I have some comedians right now that the country hasn't seen smoking. They're gonna see them.
They're gonna see them. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the vision on Laugh Mob.
Laugh Mob.
What was it?
Laugh Mob had Rick Rubin had a Def Jam funeral. Left with laugh tracks, all that. So once that West Coast for 5 years, and I came back. I had to come my juice, so I just created my own, Bob Sumner Presents LLC. I have that going on. Or down managing, who I feel are the next Chris Tuckers, the next Bernie Macs.
Gotcha.
I got nobody. That's why I'm saying these specials that I'm rolling out with these comedians, Apple Brown, Anthony Oakes, Rashawn Reeves, like we rolling Freddie Ricks. I'm doing a special with Freddie Ricks called Pandemonium.
Okay.
Hilarious.
So that's what's going on. Like, what's going on with Bob right now? Just elaborate on it, but tell us exactly what's on deck.
On deck is getting this tour going.
Okay.
Getting this tour going, and because it really, comedy needs to come back to a place where you're hearing, stories being told on stage for real, and not just a bunch of, going back and forth with the audience and all that type of stuff.
Gotcha.
I'm not in that lane. I'm into the lane where I want to create new Fridays and house parties. Because when you look at those movies, those is all young, fresh talents. With a couple, people that was great writers, and you had, some celebs that, was maybe not headliners, but you knew who they were. You know what I mean? That's what. But the script was funny. You know what I mean? That's what I want to do.
So, Max, just based on that, do you think, with where we are in comedy now, right, the fact that show we're in the audience, you don't really like, how do you get that back, or how are you going to help transcend these comedians to get in front of those people, because social media now, they really don't come out to the clubs anymore, right?
They do and they don't. It's really being paying attention to who's making moves.
Okay.
Paying attention to who's making moves, because you can really, the power of social media now allows you to put a quick 5 minute. There was a thing back in the day called Love American Style. There was a TV show called Love American Style where they showed little pieces of a show, right? But those little pieces of a show turned into The Odd Couple or whatever you know, it was going to be.
Sure.
You could do it like that. You know, it's just a matter of supply and demand.
Gotcha.
You know, and having stuff that's really funny. A lot of people could think stuff is funny, but then it's. Let me give you a perfect example. In Living Color.
Okay.
When In Living Color first hit, it was killing.
Right.
All of a sudden, Keenan's not there. And what
You
happens?
saw the difference. You could see the difference. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Wow, that's a
Solid.
great example.
Solid.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Solid.
That's a great example. So on this tour, you're gonna have some of these newer comedians.
Young fresh,
that you was talking about.
it's gonna
Okay.
be all young fresh, and like I said, you can go online now, look up Apple Brown Betty, look at her special. It's crazy right now. Look at Anthony Oakes, you know what I mean, and the diversity that I have going on is pretty dope. Yeah, I got it. I got the formula.
Well, we're not gonna take too much more of your time, man, because you got a party out here. People gonna want to see you before the end of the night. But man, I'm just tell you, man, it's always a pleasure to be in your presence, your stories. I mean, I know you didn't even really get to scratch the surface on these stories, man. But we honored to have you here, man. Honored to celebrate your birthday again.
Right.
You know, you meet people from the door, and you hear that thing, you had me at hello. Ange had me at hello, I don't know how many years ago. You know what I mean? But we've been good all the way through. You know what I mean? All the way through. You know?
It's good stuff.
So,
Good stuff.
yeah, appreciate you, fam. And we got more to do.
We got more to do.
Word
We got
up.
more to do.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure meeting you, my man.
This
Word.
was straight history. This was straight history. Oh, wait, now Jersey. So I gotta ask: Giants or Jets? Neither. I'm taking.
You know what's cool about the Jets right now?
Okay.
I mentioned Arsenal and Mitchell.
Right.
Mitchell's son was traded to the Jets from the Colts for Sauce Gardner. So he's playing with the Jets now.
Wow.
But I'm gonna tell you who Mitchell's son is. Mitchell's son is A.D. Mitchell, who was the wide receiver for the Georgia Bulldogs that won the national championship.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, ain't that something?
That is something.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
Yeah. So the answer. So right now, the Jets are cool because we got the Def Jam baby. But the Giants are cool. But I ain't gonna front. I'm an OG. Okay. I used to have an electric football set.
Okay. Talk to me.
Well, my first
Don't go one or two ways, right? Go ahead.
my first electric football set was silver and black. Alright, so every time I see the tuck rule,
You cream.
I cringe. You know what I mean? But that's how I mean. So it's weird how that thing happened. But I've been a Raider fan. Now we got the Heisman Trophy winner. We'll see what happens if they draft him.
Yeah,
But I'm a sports fan. Like I'm watching the NBA right now, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to watch this 7'5" point guard.
Incredible, ain't it?
And then y'all see what y'all just did? You know what the Hawks just did? The Hawks just woke up a sleeping giant because Steve Kerr dogged that kid out in Golden. And he didn't get.
Yeah.
Well, what? He came and showed out. They ain't gonna stop him and Johnson.
Yeah.
Watch what they do. It's gonna be all right down here. I love sports, man. I could go all day with that. So you asked me the Jets and the Giants. I'm like, come on.
Our producer's gonna love what you just said.
Is that right?
Yeah.
ATL all the way.
Is that right?
That's what he is. That's
That's
what he
cool.
is. Listen, man, it was great meeting you again, bro. You are Black history. Again, the things that you've done for the culture, I don't think that you can be thanked enough. Because again, right now, I would say 80% of them
Yeah.
started right there. Take that for
Yes,
real,
sir.
for real. Last words?
Last words. Like, listen. I don't really have any last words because the journey continues.
There it is. There it is. Bob Sumner, ladies and gentlemen.
Motivation. But listen, again, man, right here from Atlanta, this was a great special conversation with Klassic Konversations. Stay tuned. We're going to have a whole lot more stuff coming. And we're going to keep up with Mr. Bob Sumner and let you know what's happening when it's about to happen.
Right on.
Work to do.
So that's going to do it with Klassic Konversations with Jae Tea and Lo. And we are out. You dig?